Welcome back to another episode of the Special Forces in World War II podcast, where we explore the bold, the daring, and the extraordinary stories, tactics, and equipment of the special and specialized forces whose actions helped shape the outcome of the Second World War. I am your host, Michael Wyers. Every soldier is made somewhere. Most are made on a parade ground, in a training depot, in the ordinary machinery of an army that has done it 10,000 times before. But in 1942, in the remote villages of a Pacific island, a small group of New Zealanders set out to make soldiers of a very different kind. They had no parade grounds. They had no manuals for the task. They had a handful of officers and non-commissioned officers, a stretch of jungle few Europeans had ever crossed, and villagers who had never worn a uniform. Their orders are unusual. They are to raise small bands of guerrillas from the Fijian people and to place them in the least accessible corners of the island. If the enemy comes, these men are not to meet him head-on. They are too few for that. Instead, they are to harass him, to close the roads behind him, and to bleed his advance until stronger forces can move up. It is a strategy of thorns, of small, sharp units striking where they are least expected, then vanishing back into the bush. But before any of that can happen, the New Zealanders face a harder task than fighting. They must learn a country of mountains, flooded rivers, and trackless jungle, a country that gives up nothing easily. They must win the trust of a people whose language they do not speak and whose customs they do not know. And they must turn villagers into scouts, one training week at a time, in conditions that test the teachers as much as the taught. This is the story of the First Commando Fiji Guerrillas and of how they are formed. Over the coming episodes, we will follow these men a long way from where they begin. But every part of what they become is built here, in the villages and the bush of Fiji. It begins, as so much of their war will, with the island itself, and with the price it exacts before any enemy arrives. So let's start at the beginning. In December 1941, Japan brings the Pacific and Asia into the war. The attack falls on Pearl Harbor. The early months of 1942 bring a run of Japanese victories. Most meet no opposition. The advance drives south through the Pacific as far as the Solomon Islands. Japan also plants bases in the Gilbert Group. These lie under 8 hours flying time from Fiji. The British Navy is tied down in the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. The American Navy has yet to recover from Pearl Harbor. Together, these pressures leave Fiji exposed for months. The United States needs time to assemble her forces. Fiji holds 2 good harbors and 2 airfields. It sits astride the sea and air routes from America to Australia and New Zealand. Supplies for both countries pass this way. Japan could seize the islands and build a base of her own. Denying them to the Allies would cut the Australian and New Zealand lifelines. New Zealand reinforces the small garrison with every man she can spare. Some come from her Middle East commitments. Fiji mobilizes her own manpower too, wherever this proves practicable. Even so, the force cannot hold every point in the group. It splits, with troops at each end of Viti Levu, the main island. In the east, they guard Suva Harbour and Nausori Airfield. In the west, they hold Lautoka Harbour and Nandi Airfield. Mechanized patrols cover the rest of the island. Only one road exists. It winds some 480 kilometers around the coast. Dense bush crowds in on every side and cuts down visibility. So the 3rd New Zealand Division moves to plant commando units at the least accessible spots. These lie between the fixed positions. Their task is delay. They are to meet any enemy landing from sea or air. The road must stay closed to him until the main Allied forces move up. The command divides the island into 3 sectors. These are Western, Eastern, and Southern. In April 1942, a commando company forms in each. Here, the word commando carries its older sense. These are independent companies, very nearly self-contained. Guerrillas is the more exact term. If the enemy lands, these units turn to harassment. They are too small to stop a landing outright. Even so, they can cut at an invader from within. The commandos work closely with the Fijians. They want self-reliant scouts. They want men who show initiative. They want men who speak up to senior officers without hesitation. The New Zealanders set out to train them.
I see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
In the southern sector, the independent commando now takes shape. Volunteers from the infantry battalions supply its New Zealand officers and non-commissioned officers. The 3 sector units take different forms. On Viti Levu's dry, thinner wooded side, the Western Commando patrols on horseback. New Zealanders make up most of it, with a few Fijian guide interpreters attached. The Eastern and Southern Commandos work wholly on foot. These draw mainly on Fijians, trained by New Zealanders, out in the remote villages. The mounted unit wants short, light men with rough riding experience. The foot units choose the biggest New Zealanders they can find, so most are large men. Character counts as much as build. Each man lives among the Fijians and works without direct supervision. Many of the non-commissioned officers are farmers in civil life. They take readily to independent work, to loosened army routine, and to the isolation of the commando life. Several of the chosen men trained a year earlier with a special company in Australia. That course combined hard living with advanced work in explosives, field wireless, and other technical devices. When the special companies came home, New Zealand shelved the commando idea and scattered the men through other formations. By chance, a few now sit in Fijian infantry battalions, just as their knowledge is wanted. The Southern Commando secures 3 of them, and their instruction proves invaluable. In Fiji, the choice is simple. Few men must cover vast ground. Guerrilla units are the only practical answer. In April 1942, Lieutenant Charles Tripp takes command of the Southern Independent Commando. At first, it carries the name 8th Brigade Commando. Tripp and his second-in-command, David Williams, move along the southern coast with senior officers. With the district officer, Mr. R.H. Lester, and the chiefs, they recruit 200 Fijians. Each man is to train 1 week a month on a territorial basis for £1. Each also draws 2 khaki shirts and 2 pairs of khaki shorts. Recruiting demands great tact and respect for custom. Over many bowls of kava, the chiefs present tambua. This is a whale's tooth, given as a token of esteem. Some men are reluctant to leave their dalo patch even for a week. Often, only the Mambuli, the district headman, brings in enough men to form platoons. The Roko Tui of Serua, the head of the province, Ratu Kiniwiliame Vitukawalu, gives outstanding help. Native medical practitioners examine the recruits. Only 3% fail. Some Kaitholo, the hillmen from the mountains, are notably strong. 9 villages become training centers. At each, a sergeant, a corporal, and a medical orderly live in a bure, a thatched Fijian house. A wooden house at Navua becomes commando headquarters. It is rented from the Fiji Pastoral Company. After recruiting, Trip returns to Suva and gathers his administrative staff. He takes the second in command, a sergeant major, a quartermaster, and a clerk. For 2 weeks, they work day and night. The unit will spread across 129 kilometers of rugged jungle. Every detail of running and supplying it must be settled. Record-keeping proves a nightmare. Fijians sign their attestation forms with one name, their medical forms with another, and sometimes their particulars form with a third. Most learn to write their names at mission school, but have never handled documents. Fiji's birth registration system is still young, and men take any extra name they fancy. Most names are biblical, such as Josefa, Isaiah, and Israeli. Some run long, such as Venasio Tokatoka Vanua and Macario Thakanatambua. Few men know their exact age, some guesses miss by 10 years. The quartermaster faces a huge task. He must indent for all the unit's likely gear and rations. Transport is so difficult that supplies are cut to bare essentials. With only one truck, the unit dumps a month's rations at Navua and splits them into 10 portions. One stays at headquarters. The rest go out to the platoon headquarters. Paul Holmes, the quartermaster, gets the commandos their equipment largely by dogged scrounging. When he indents for bed-making materials, ordnance staff scoff. Commandos, they say, should be tough enough to sleep on the ground. Yet, away from headquarters, the men sleep out in the rain for long stretches. Trip holds that the best jungle men are not the toughest. They are the ones who use their brains to live well in the worst conditions. Each man must guard his health and stay fit for hard work. While the paperwork goes on, Trip interviews and picks the New Zealanders. A provisional establishment allows 34 members of the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force. These are 2 officers, 1 warrant officer, 1 staff sergeant, 10 sergeants, 10 corporals, and 10 privates. The privates are all medical orderlies. They volunteer from the 7th Field Ambulance. Only the available numbers limit the Fijians, about 200 in the southern sector. No pamphlets exist on forming commandos. The men learn by their mistakes. Before leaving Suva, the non-commissioned officers take a refresher course in mapping, compass work, and explosives. Each sergeant draws £5 as an impressed account for hiring punts or guides. He can also spend a little on fresh fruit and vegetables. This relieves the austere ration of bully beef and biscuits. In May, the New Zealanders move to Southern Commando headquarters at Navua. Before heading to their platoons, they help sort rations and equipment. Supplies stand piled high in the house, the only dry storage. Weighing out each platoon's share takes days. Salt, pepper, flour, sugar, candles, and medical stores. In transit, a bottle of methylated spirits has broken over the raisins. For a month, the commandos' scones suffer for it. Axes, hammers, and saws are too few to go round. The platoons borrow them in turn to build tables, chairs, and beds from the packing cases. Each sergeant, corporal, and orderly must match by temperament. In the villages, they live as one family. Months later, the unit offers transfers to any who cannot agree. Not one man moves. Within a week, the coastal platoons stand established. They sit at Viti Levu, Mau, Ndiumba, Ngaloa, Serua, and Komave, all fairly near the road. The Nuku, Namwamwa, and Namosi platoons come later, a day's travel inland. Commando headquarters lies on the Navua River, 48 kilometers from Suva. Its staff holds the officer commanding, his second in command, a sergeant major, a quartermaster sergeant, a clerk, a storeman, 2 Fijian interpreters, and a Fijian cook. Charles Tripp is a tall, raw-boned man in his late 30s. The men call him the boss. In civil life, he is a successful farmer, and he brings practical, common-sense thinking to the unit. He believes that giving his men his full confidence makes them live up to it. Every administrative document stays mobile, ready to shift to a battle headquarters in the hills if the Japanese land. The quartermaster and clerk each keep a portable office, a light packing case with built-in compartments for maps and records. The lid drops to form a writing desk and locks at night. The records stay permanently packed, and the unit can carry them off at a moment's notice. Administration is decentralized as far as possible, and the paper war kept small. Even so, no such irregular force can run without considerable records. The quartermaster also runs a canteen for tobacco, shaving gear, other necessities, and sometimes beer. Beer never goes out to the villages. The non-commissioned officers enjoy it only on their monthly visits to headquarters. The unit secures 2 Fijian interpreters, Bale and Jope. Both have served nearly 2 years with the 1st Battalion of the Fiji Defence Force in Suva. Their diplomacy cements good relations early before the New Zealanders can speak the language. Ndiumba sits on the Navua Delta, about 3 kilometers nearer the coast. It is the nearest platoon to headquarters, yet isolated. Those 3 kilometers run mostly knee-deep in mud. Sergeant Jerry Grace first runs Ndiumba. Before the commandos, he did sedentary administrative work. He drives himself hard to match the others' fitness. Overexertion in a mangrove swamp lands him in hospital. Mao Platoon lies 13 kilometers east of headquarters under Sergeant Norman Mackenzie. Farther east sits Viti Levu under Sergeant Ken Dane. Viti Levu is the nearest to Suva, only 19 kilometers from it. Dane gives the Fijians little latitude until he knows them. Villagers take to disciplining their children with a cry of, "Look, see, Sergeant." After a few weeks, the children lose all fear of him. Ngaloa Platoon stands 15 kilometers west of headquarters on a palm-fringed beach. Its headquarters is a large wooden building, once a Chinese bakery. Sergeant Ralph Griffin, a Fiji-born European, runs it with Jim Bright, who later takes over. Griffin speaks Fijian. Both men bring fresh training ideas. Griffin keeps a small launch for practicing amphibious operations. Serua Platoon lies about 15 kilometers farther west. Serua is a small island, 400 meters off the mainland. It is far enough out to escape the jungle mosquitoes. It runs about 180 meters long, set in a lagoon. A 15-meter hill rises at each end, with the village on the flat between. On one hilltop stands a large wooden house, built for the late Rokotui Ratu Aseri Latianara, who died about 1938. His successor lends it to the commandos for platoon headquarters. Sergeant Roy Taylor holds Serua. The men call him Pop. He is the oldest in the unit, his age a military secret. He served in France in the First World War, yet, like the boss, is very fit for his years. Komave is the most remote coastal platoon, 97 kilometers from Suva and 48 from headquarters. The road is so winding and steep that a visit and return take trip a full day. Sergeant Sid Heckler runs Komave with a Fijian chief as his cook. He is powerfully built and handles a rifle one-handed, almost as others handle a pistol. After roaming Viti Levu, he borrows anything that floats to explore other islands of the group. In June, the Namuamua and Namosi platoons form. The unit buys a punt to move stores up the Navua River. It once belonged to a Japanese resident and comes from the custodian of alien properties at Suva. The Fijian's pole punts over the rapids with great skill. The river gives the quickest way into the interior from the southern coast. Sergeant Dan Sturmer first leads Namwamua platoon. He has grand ideas for reforming the village and improving its sanitation. In their spare time, his men clear ground for a football field. The Fijians cannot take to all his schemes at once, so many never get going. Sturmer transfers out before seeing results. Russ Drummond takes over and pushes the field to completion months later. It is named Sturmer Park after him. Keith Hood, the medical orderly, teaches the Fijians rugby. The sport thrills them, and they come from miles around to watch Hood's games. Namosi lies another day's journey from Namwamua over a mud track wedged between two mountains. One of them, Mount Voma, rises sheer above the village to over 900 meters. The Fijians carry supplies on their backs from Namwamua to Namosi. They bear heavy ammunition boxes through 19 kilometers of mud, often knee-deep. Sergeant Frank Williams, no relation to David, commands Namosi. His placid temper suits that always raining, isolated spot. Most Kaitholo rarely visit the coast. The same men handle the weekly marketing, bringing fruit and vegetables down the rivers and carrying back salt and tobacco. The remote villages rarely see a European. Tui Namosi, paramount chief of Namosi province, was educated in New Zealand. He welcomes the three New Zealanders and lends them his late father's large buer for a headquarters. The hut has drawbacks. As a dead chief's dwelling, it is sacred. The Fijians enter on their knees, stay only as long as needed, then hurry out. Its wide floor cannot serve for instruction in wet weather. At each center, a sergeant finds a Fijian who speaks English to interpret until the New Zealanders learn the language. Another Fijian cooks, so each headquarters holds 5 men. Fijian cooking rarely goes beyond dalo and tapioca. The men soon relish bully beef, which they call bulumakau. One morning at Namosi, the cook, Cassiano, sleeps in. To hurry breakfast, he drops a tin of bully beef straight into the fire. It explodes and blows a pot and kettle off the flames. Whether it throws Cassiano from the hut or he dives out himself, no one can say. Most interpreters were school teachers. Some try to run the platoon their own way, which causes friction. The Reverend F. Quinard of the Society of Mary has taught at Namosi for 40 years. He helps the New Zealanders understand local custom. For decades, missionaries have worked to end the old intertribal warfare. Now the commandos train the Fijians to fight again. Winning their cooperation takes fairness and patient demonstration of why discipline matters.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
I see you.
Avatar Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
To gather the Fijians for their monthly training week, orders travel by bush telegraph. The call goes out to the surrounding villages. The Fijians still use wooden drums to summon people to church on Sundays. These drums are called lalis. Each is hollowed from the trunk of a tavala tree. The first training week brings the sergeants no end of trouble. When 30 men gather in one village for a week, the food supply strains. The villagers blame the army. They hope a bully beef issue will quiet their complaints. The sergeants are not fooled. They set up a rationing system for the Fijians to run themselves. Teaching them to run it takes months. The men bring a week's food each time. Then they hold a big mangyati, a feast, and run short by midweek. Close order drill heads the first week's syllabus. The Fijian soldiers learn the English words of command through the actions. They never learn the literal sense of eyes right or attention. By week's end, they know what each command means. The sergeant's tone leaves no doubt. The only flat drilling ground is the village green. There, every man, woman, and dog turns out to watch. The first day goes on teaching the men to form 3 straight lines. This is new to them. Often, one man must be held still, while another is placed beside him. The Fijians are disappointed to lack uniforms that first week. They drill with bamboo sticks for rifles. The non-commissioned officers lend their own rifles. The Fijians take turns cleaning and oiling them, learning the parts. After half a dozen have worked on a rifle, it would pass the most exacting regimental sergeant major. The men resent building buers for the week. Yet they learn fast whatever catches their interest. They can throw a grenade accurately 35 to 45 meters. The average New Zealander manages some 25. Stalking and bushcraft need no teaching. If anything, the New Zealanders learn bushcraft by watching the Fijians. The New Zealanders have spent many months in Fiji, yet know the people little. The infantry battalions kept mostly to the Suva Peninsula. Troops rarely left the defense area, except on duty. A standing order barred them from mixing with Fijians in Suva, so the commando non-commissioned officers begin with almost no grasp of local custom. At first, the New Zealanders use orthodox methods. As they learn the language and the outlook, they adapt their instruction. Trip studies Fijian history. In their warlike days, he finds the Fijians excelled at ambush. He also finds they are less bold once out of the jungle, their natural element. So, the New Zealanders concentrate on the Fijians' natural gifts. They aim to use them mainly as scouts. A little parade ground drill still serves to build a sense of teamwork. Keeping the men quiet after lights out is hard. The Maramas, the women, seek meetings with the visitors. The Fijians want taralalas, dances, every night, and kava too. The New Zealanders enjoy the dances at first. Once the novelty fades, they try to bring in new steps. During that first week, the medical orderlies work hard, teaching healthcare. The Fijians are told to report each morning if too sick to parade. Like European soldiers, they soon turn the system into a way to dodge duty. The orderlies curb it with liberal iodine. Another dodge is to play on native custom. Reluctant to gather buer-building materials, a man cites some obscure custom against it. The New Zealanders soon find ways to test such objections. Their easy habits have to be reined in slowly until the Fijians see they are not in the army for fun. In time, no custom is allowed to interfere with training. 1 or 2 non-commissioned officers press too hard. A whole village then rises and sends a deputation to Navua. Through an interpreter, Trip explains the rules. Coming straight to headquarters without real grievance breaches regulations. The interpreter, sparing his kinsman's feelings, always softens the rebuke. The New Zealanders become the Fijians' mentors. The men bring them even personal troubles. One Fijian begs the army to save him from marriage. He has grown fairly wealthy. He runs his own garden, markets his produce, and operates a punt service. The most eligible bachelor at Namuamua, he means to stay single. But one night, at a Taralala, he flirts with a Marama from another village. Next day, she settles in his bureau. She refuses to leave unless he marries her. He wants Dan Sturmer to evict her. Sturmer holds that he has no jurisdiction over a breach of promise. The whole village wants Tripp to judge the case. The man is a leading figure in the platoon. So the affair disrupts training. After several days, the Fijians accept that the army cannot interfere. The matter settles by soro, a custom in which copious kava can absolve the worst offence. The man stays single. He must live in another village for weeks until the scandal blows over. The Fijians clearly offer something. Their jungle knowledge, keen hearing, and remarkable eyesight can all be put to use. A few prove it in a brigade maneuver held about this time. The exercise is a mock invasion. One battalion lands at Naitoni Toni near Navua. That battalion is to push towards Suva. Another is to repel it there. The commandos draw a small, harassing roll. During the night, the invading battalion halts at Navua. 3 non-commissioned officers from headquarters cross the river. They slip through the guards into its camp. The night is dirty and wet. The commandos have blacked their faces with shoe polish. Under cover of the storm, they disable the vehicles. They slowly let down the tires and strip the distributors, while the drivers sleep in the trucks. Then they creep out, swim the river, and return. The battalion notices nothing until it tries to move next morning. It sets out on foot, forced to keep to the road. It cannot hold formation and make headway in the bush. That makes it easy prey. The thick roadside growth lets the commandos hide a few meters from a marching column. Before the battalion has gone far, Mao platoon breaks it up with roadblocks and dummy grenades. One Fijian forces a motorcyclist to dismount with a well-aimed lump of mud. Flooded rivers add to the battalion's troubles. The maneuver is finally called off. Afterwards, the brigadier notes how effective even a small commando force can be when it knows its ground and moves by night. The New Zealanders grow keen on the unit's promise. Each sergeant makes an appreciation of his platoon area. None will accept that reefs or mangrove swamps can wholly stop a determined invader. They test the swamps by wading through them. It is foul work. Yet any swamp can be crossed, using the mangrove's breathing roots as stepping stones. The men read all they can find on Japanese tactics. Reports from Malaya say the enemy waded waist-deep through flooded rice fields. They marched 48 kilometers a day over rough country. The commandos find they can match that, and more. They practice knife-throwing keenly. Once, a non-commissioned officer takes a knife point in the ribs by accident. Tripp devises a flexible system for use if the enemy invades. The whole coast is vulnerable in some degree at many points. He lays plans so that, wherever the enemy lands, commandos are harassing him within hours. As area knowledge grows over the months, communication between platoons falls from days to hours. Between the training weeks, the New Zealanders explore the tracks of their areas. They accustom themselves to the bush by bivouacking wherever nightfall finds them. Tripp fosters a competitive spirit. The non-commissioned officers stretch their endurance over ever longer journeys. Few Europeans have entered the interior of Viti Levu. Only missionaries, district officers, and the survey men who fixed the tribal land boundaries have gone before them. Seeking fresh ground, the Southern Commandos push out to every part of the far coast. They learn what the other units are doing. Later, the Eastern Commando returns the visits. A man studies the map and plots a course to some landmark or village. Each day's march covers 24 to 32 kilometers. He tries always to return by a different route, keep to a native path, and a day passes 1 or 2 villages. Leave it, and he crosses jungle no Fijian foot has likely touched. The Fijians rarely live apart from a village. A common belief holds that wild fruit abounds in the tropics. It is not so. The only food to be had is what the villagers have planted. Where coconuts and bananas grow alone, a village once stood there. Coconut seed weighs several pounds and does not drift on the wind. The commandos cannot live off the land without raiding Fijian gardens, so they carry tinned bully beef and biscuits on reconnaissance. They always carry 4 days' rations against accidents that stretch a journey. The packs weigh between 14 and 18 kilograms. The reconnaissance trips hold many dangers. Once, David Williams and Atu, the cook, are in the island's center. They are a day from the nearest village when Williams sprains an ankle. Strong as Atu is, he cannot carry this 90-kilogram man. They have some 600 meters to climb to reach a track, so Williams limps out over several painful days. Many New Zealanders have narrow escapes from drowning in flooded rivers. Several owe their lives to Fijian skill in plucking them from the rapids. In the early days, one rule stands firm. No reconnaissance party goes out without a Fijian guide. Fiji's tracks range from clear mud paths a meter wide to faint breaks no easier than the jungle itself. The faint ones baffle the beginner. At first, the guides seem to lead aimlessly through the undergrowth. The Fijians cannot explain how they know a track lies beneath the foliage. They simply know the way. The New Zealanders are too matter-of-fact to credit a sixth sense, so they watch the Fijians work. Within 3 months, they build a jungle sense almost equal to theirs. The whole secret lies in minute observation. It lies in knowing how unpruned jungle grows. The undergrowth may look the same all round, but look up and a gap shows in the larger treetops. That gap comes from the Fijians lopping saplings before they grow into trees. Knife cuts in the saplings help too. If a track has lain unused for months, new growth hides the cuts. The undergrowth also runs thinner on the ridge tops. Once they learn the country, the men often travel the ridge systems. Another way is to scramble over the boulders of the smaller streams, but these win so much they treble the map distance. Getting information from a guide takes care. Leading questions are useless. The Fijian gives whatever answer he thinks the questioner wants. His sense of time and distance is vague. Guiding a man to a village he wishes to visit, he urges him on. From each summit, he swears the place is just over the next hill. Tired at a village, when the man wants to push on, he raises every obstacle. Then it is always plenty hills, Kalevunawai, meaning big rivers. He slips from English into his own tongue when excited. Within a few months, the New Zealanders can march the Fijians down. Barefoot, the Fijian leads for the first few miles. Over a full day, though, the New Zealander wears him down. Physically, the Fijian is the stronger man. One non-commissioned officer covers a 150-kilometer track in 4 days. His 4 Fijian companions give out on the 3rd day and stay at a village. The New Zealanders tire on these long trips too. Their will to finish carries them through. It takes months to teach the Fijians that the army keeps to a schedule. One small platoon must coordinate with perhaps hundreds of other troops. They cannot see why the New Zealanders drive themselves in such heat merely to stay fit. But the New Zealanders know that stopping costs them their edge. After a week's rest from dysentery, regaining fitness takes a huge effort. The New Zealanders learn to light fires with wet wood. They make lean-to shelters fast from a few sticks and broad leaves. They carry small mosquito nets to cover face and hands, slung from a tree. Bitter experience teaches them never to bivouac by a stream. Streams rise suddenly. A wall of water meters high can surge down after heavy rain. Leaves and sticks jam among the boulders and form a dam. The pressure grows too great and the dam bursts. They carry spare clothing, kept dry in waterproof sheets. At night, they change into the dry set to sleep. In the morning, they change back into the wet. Once moving, they no longer feel the wet clothes. None catches cold from the practice. When they must sleep in wet clothes, they shiver, despite the tropical air. Fiji teems with insect life, yet holds few birds. The mongoose, which eats birds' eggs, is blamed for their scarcity. Toads pack some places so thickly that a man treads on them at every step. Hornets, ants, and mosquitoes are only a few of the pests. There are no poisonous snakes. Some wild pigs roam, and a few wild cattle sprung from the Fijians' unfenced beasts. Reconnaissance fills most of the early training. One crossing of Viti Levu shows its nature. 4 days is the record for crossing the island through its geographical center. One non-commissioned officer, Bill, sets out to cut it to 3. He plans to start on the northern coast and walk back to the unit's southern area. He reaches his start point at Nandarivatu by hitching on army trucks and American scout cars. Nandarivatu lies near Mount Victoria, the island's highest peak. It stands some 900 meters above the sea. From there, Bill sets off alone, hoping to pick up guides on the way. His first objective is Nasongo village, 19 kilometers off. Bill leaves Nandarivatu at daylight in heavy rain. He drops some 300 meters by mountain track into a valley. Then he climbs the same again to cross the next ridge. After that, the way runs downhill on a winding mud track. This part is easy, for Bill is fresh from a good night's rest. On the move, he barely notices his wet clothes. He reaches Nasongo by midday. Then he presses on 8 kilometers more to Nangelewai. By now, Bill is tired, having fought through 3 flooded streams. He is glad when a Fijian boy runs out and leads him to a buer. As he sheds his pack to change into drier clothes, Fijians crowd in. He speaks little Fijian, but signs that he is cold and hungry. He unpacks some bully beef. The Fijians build a fire in the buer. Bill hands round a packet of cigarettes. There are too few to go round. True to their sharing custom, the Fijians begin breaking each cigarette in half, so Bill gives them another packet. He learns to change his clothes the Fijian way, wrapped in a sulu, for the buers are rarely partitioned. The Fijians bring cooked dalo to eat with his bully beef. Afterwards, the children eat what remains. Later, a young Fijian named Elia comes to him. Elia speaks some English and says the chief wishes to see Bill. The chief has a huge bowl of kava ready. Bill drinks 1 mbilo, but no more. The chief wants a taralala in Bill's honor. He presses Bill to stay a week or so. For 2 hours, Bill tries, through Elia, to explain that he must push on at dawn. The chief says the rivers are too high to travel. He cannot see why it matters whether Bill reaches his headquarters this month or next. But Bill will let nothing spoil the record attempt. In the end, he wins the argument and goes to bed. He wakes to chattering children, discussing the visitor and his kit. He rises, eats bully beef and biscuits, and pulls on his wet clothes. As he makes to leave, the women bring a great breakfast of fish, dalo, and tapioca. He sits and eats what he can. The children take the rest. Then Elia tries to talk him out of traveling in the rain. Seeing Bill's mind fixed, Elia offers to guide him to the next village, Viti Levu, 13 kilometers on. The track is poor, with many small streams but few steep climbs. They reach Viti Levu about 11 o'clock. They rest there over coconut milk and see the sun break through for a few minutes. Bill persuades Elia to go on to the next village. Bill and Elia struggle onto the Wainemala River. It is part of Fiji's largest river, the Rewa. Here, the river cuts through a gorge. They face a choice. They can climb a steep, jungle-matted mountainside on a long detour round the outer bend, or they can take the shortcut. That means crossing the river, rounding the inner bend, and crossing again. The river runs high in flood, an ugly, muddy torrent. Great boulders comb the rapids, but both men are tired. The climb of 300 steep meters, only to descend again, decides them. They will risk the 46 meters of water. Bill wades into a meter of water near the bank. He pushes across, his pack and gear held above his head. Elia follows close behind. 9 meters out, the water swirls round Bill's shoulders as the river deepens. He leans hard against the current. The weight of his pack helps anchor his feet. He is just deciding to turn back when he steps into a pothole. He loses his footing. In such deep water, swept along at speed, he has no hope of regaining it. So he swims, as never before, for the far bank. He is a strong swimmer and makes headway even in boots. He still clutches the strap of his gear. The current bears him toward the rapids. Air trapped in the clothing keeps his pack a little buoyant. Despite 5 tins of bully beef, he pushes it ahead of him. He cannot quite reach the bank before the first boulders break the surface. With desperate strength, he flings his pack round one side of a boulder. His body wraps round the other. He holds fast by the strap, pinned to the rock by the current. He is nearly winded, having been underwater most of the way. He scrambles onto the boulder. Then, with a last great effort, he leaps to the bank, pack and all. He lies there for over 10 minutes, shaking. Elia, carrying only his Sulu, finds the crossing a struggle too. He lies a long while before moving. After half an hour, Bill rises to survey his plight. He is on the wrong side of the river, against a sheer cliff. Only a narrow shingle ledge runs between rock and water. Working round the inner bend, he finds the ledge peters out. The river cuts over another rapid hard against the cliff. There is nothing for it but to cross again. This time, he must do it 180 meters above the first spot. Here, the river runs narrower and deeper. It needs a 30-meter swim, but to strip and swim means leaving his food and gear behind. Bill cannot do that in the center of Fiji, miles from anywhere. No bamboo grows on the ledge for a raft. He hesitates and sits down, frustrated. Elia tries to climb the cliff and fails. So, they eat a meal. As Bill sits watching the rising waters, help comes. On the far bank, 3 Fijians appear. They shout a greeting, then vanish into the bush. Bill thinks they have missed his plight, but they soon return, bearing the trunk of a fern tree. It measures some 250 millimeters across, of the soft kind common to the tropics. In a few swift strokes, they cut it into 3 lengths of about 1¼ meters. They join these with 2 hardwood skewers driven through the soft trunk. The result is a small raft, roughly 1 meter by 1¼ The 3 Fijians carry the raft some 90 meters upstream to where a rapid ends. There, they plunge in. Swimming underwater most of the way, they push the raft ahead of them. By the time they reach Bill's bank, the current has swept them almost to the next rapid. They drag the raft out and carry it upstream again as far as the ledge allows. Bill loads his gear onto it. The Fijians want him aboard too, thinking he cannot swim well. But Bill insists on swimming, for the raft is barely buoyant. The gear alone nearly sinks it. It takes all of them to drive it across before the lower rapid catches them. As it is, they only just make it. On the bank, wind regained. The Fijians ask why he has come so deep into Fiji. Bill cannot explain across the language gap. He opens his pack and gives them some silver. They look blank. As he rummages for more, they say, "Baccy, baccy." He draws out his last wet cigarettes and hands them round. The Fijians are overjoyed. It is mid-afternoon now. Bill pushes on 16 weary kilometers more. He reaches Korovu at dusk. Elia cannot keep pace and stops at Lutu. So Bill walks the last 8 kilometers alone. At Korovu, almost the geographical center of Viti Levu, the village schoolmaster greets him. This Fijian, John Selala, speaks fluent English. He asks Bill to stay the night. Unlike most buoys, his house is partitioned into 3 rooms. Each holds manufactured furniture. Selala's wife serves a European-style meal. The schoolmaster keeps a good library of modern books and a globe of the world. He was educated in Suva. He keeps Bill talking late into the night about the war. Then he insists Bill take his double bed, while he and his wife sleep on the floor. By daylight, the schoolmaster's influence on the village is plain. Everything is neat, every bureau in good repair. A large soccer field lies beside the school. Overnight, rats have eaten the garrison buttons off Bill's clothes. It is a common thing in Fiji. The schoolmaster is mortified that it should happen under his roof. The 3rd day is fine. Bill sets out with a guide the schoolmaster has found. The guide, Efiremo, is a young man, athletic and fit. He sets a terrific pace that leaves Bill breathing hard. Efiremo wears only a sulu and carries an umbrella. Bill never learns why. Some European likely gave it, and he treasures it. Efiremo offers to carry the pack, but Bill will not spoil the glory of the home stretch. He has about 48 walking kilometers to Namuamua, his goal. In 2 days, he has made only 64 kilometers, held up by mud and rivers. Now the fine weather dries the ground fast. Much of the day runs on a good track. The morning goes in, climbing a steep ridge. By midday, they drop into the headwaters of a Navua tributary. Following it, they reach the village of Wainimakuta. Both men are exhausted by the pace, and Bill has a blister. Dimbuli gives him a fine meal as he rests. Bill unloads his last bully beef with relief. Even if he misses Namuamua by nightfall, villages now line the way. He will not starve. By 1400, he has recovered enough to go on. Efiremo says he has had enough for one day. With a lighter pack and a dry track, Bill strides off. His blister is agony for a few minutes, then it bursts, and the pain is soon forgotten. He has 24 kilometers to go. Tired as he is, he means to make a strong bid for his goal. With long, loping strides, he passes a village about every half hour. The villages serve as landmarks, and his map shows him gaining ground. The Fijians here know the commandos' work. Some belong to the Namosi and Namuamua platoons. Bill dares not stop to talk. Once he sits, his tired muscles will stiffen. Starting again would be too hard.
I see you.
Avatar Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney Plus. Rated PG-13.
The villagers rush to greet him and shake his hand as he passes. The nearer he draws to Namuamua, the faster his legs carry him. He reaches it at 1800. He marches up to platoon headquarters as though just setting out. The greeting is casual. They had not expected him until tomorrow. There is likely bully beef in the pan. And had he a good trip? Bill feigns indifference and says it was nothing much. The Namuamua men are not fooled. They know the country and know the flooded rivers must have given him trouble. But they change the subject. Halfway through his meal, Bill decides he is not hungry. As quietly as he can, he hangs his mosquito net. He crawls under it and sleeps 14 hours on the Bure floor. Such journeys teach the New Zealanders the limits of what is possible in this wild, mountainous bush. Jungle sense cannot be learned from books. It comes only through hard experience. A man learns when to follow a stream and when to take a ridge. Every case differs. In time, he learns the run of the country. He can guess where a ridge leads without seeing much of it. Even from a tree on a summit, vision is short. Bush and twisting ridges block the view. When rivers and ridges carry a man too far off course, he may march by compass across country. But the seasoned bushman knows this is slow and a last resort. It leads up and down many hills, hacking through the thick bush of the gullies. And that concludes today's episode. We have watched a unit built from nothing in the remote villages and the trackless bush of a Pacific island. We have seen a handful of New Zealanders sent among a people they did not know to raise soldiers of a kind their army had never made before. And we have seen the country itself become the first teacher and the first enemy in the flooded rivers, the mountain tracks, and the long marches that broke the strongest men before a shot was ever fired. The training is done. The scouts are made. The men are ready, though for what and for where, none of them can yet say. This account rests above all on one book. Colin Larson's Pacific Commandos, New Zealanders and Fijians in Action, is the history of the Southern Independent Commando and the First Commando Fiji Guerrillas, written in the years just after the war by a man who served in the campaign. It is the foundation on which this episode is built, and to Larson, and to the New Zealanders and Fijians whose experiences he set down, we owe our thanks. The history of these units survives because someone took the trouble to write it down, and because others take the trouble to read it. If this account has held your attention, seek out his book. It carries far more than any single episode can hold. Across the parts still to come, we will follow these men a very long way from the villages of Fiji. As the war in the Pacific turns, the guerrillas raised to defend one island will find themselves drawn toward a very different kind of fighting. But that is a story for the episodes ahead. For maps, photographs, and the full source base behind this series, please visit www.worldwar2-sof.com. You have been listening to the Special Forces in World War II podcast. I am your host, Michael Wires, signing off.